Mike, you don't have to be a trade expert to grasp that a trade war that's currently dealing with $50 billion worth, or tariffs on $50 billion worth of imports and exports, could go to $200 billion within a matter of weeks. A serious escalation of this conflict. And that helps explain why so many business leaders and business representatives have been keen to make their point here in Washington, D.C. this week about the potential impact of taking this trade war even further.
At the end of a week of conflicting signals about the US-China trade war, business owners and lobbyists spent a fifth day telling the Trump administration how another $200 billion of tariffs on Chinese imports would affect them. If they're imposed, possibly in late September, some Chinese imports, such as mandarin oranges, will be hit with duties as high as 25%.
25% is extremely higher, and because of Mandarin business is a very low margin, and 25% is maybe is a kill, the damage to the business.
The Trump administration is pressuring China into changing what Washington considers unfair trade practices that threaten American jobs and the economy. China denies this.
The US and China have already hit each other with duties on $50 billion worth of each other's goods. So far, they've been careful to spare consumer products, but the next round of potential US tariffs wouldn't.
And a new study from the US National Retail Federation says consumers will pay billions of dollars more for luggage and furniture alone if these duties are imposed.
Mike, one thing that's emerged from this week of hearings and listening to these different companies give their evidence is that many of these US companies particularly aren't really ideologically opposed to the idea of the US standing up to China. And that may explain why Donald Trump feels so confident in pursuing this trade war when he knows that companies perhaps in his heartland, his voter heartland, feel this way. The reality is they cannot afford this trade war. Their global supply chains are so completely dominant upon China that any escalation, any increase in the price of doing business could potentially put them out of business. They're also concerned as well that if they follow through on these tariffs and make their goods more expensive, they're going to lose market share to rivals from other countries as far as Australia and New Zealand. Those were just some of the comments coming out from those hearings today and in the last 5 days.
Yeah, they've had a chance to get out there and really plead their case. But the last public hearing will take place on Monday on this latest possible tariffs, correct?
That's right, and at that point we'll have heard from close to 400 different witnesses on these hearings. The big question is, do they help? Well, they've had previous hearings into these tariffs before those tariffs were put in place, and only a few companies, a handful of companies, were exonerated, managed to get exclusions upon their products. But remember, all of that took place while this trade war was talking, and crucially, that took place before these two sides resumed formal discussions. Even if they're very low-level discussions, they have resumed. The noises we've had from Washington and Beijing aren't particularly encouraging, but they're not averse to continuing those talks for now, and that's probably the best we can get for now. Mike.
Owen, thanks so much.